Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzano. Here's what's coming up on the program right now. Some lawmakers in the River State House of Assembly have begun moving their property out of the assembly quarters over fears of possible demolition by the state government. Suspected bandits attack and abduct students of Confluence University of Science and Technology of Saro in Kogi State. And Senate passes law prescribing death sentence for drug traffickers after the bill passed third reading on the floor of the House. Well, we'll begin the tracking of the policy with security as gunmen suspected to be bandits have attacked the Confluence University of Science and Technology of Saro in Kogi State and have abducted some students in the process. Eyewitness account told Channels Television that the assailants invaded the university on Thursday night while the students were studying for their forthcoming examinations. Although the state government and the police are yet to confirm the attack, Channels Television gathered that security has been beefed up on the university campus as we speak. Let's also tell you that some report just coming in has it that Justice Emeka Nwite of the Federal High Court Abuja has insisted that the former governor of Kogi State, Mr. Yaya Bello, must come to court and answer to the fraud allegations preferred against him by the EFCC to the tune of 80 billion naira. In a ruling, Justice Nwite stated that the application filed by the anti-graft agency that no application be heard without defendant being in court was meritorious. While citing Section 396, subsection 2 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, the trial judge held that the Mr. Bello ought to make himself available first before filing any process. The trial judge held that since Mr. Bello has continued to disobey court orders, he would not be allowed to file any application or be heard. So that's the latest coming in from the issue between the EFCC and former Kogi State Governor, Mr. Yaya Bello. Let's now shift our attention to the festering political crisis in River State. We can tell you that at this moment, there's an uneasy calm following the visit of the state governor on Thursday to the assembly quarters. Some lawmakers are believed to have moved their property out of the apartment in anticipation of a potential demolition. Members of the State House of Assembly had on Thursday raised an alarm over an alleged plot by the governor to demolish the assembly quarters. Addressing a press conference shortly after that, the House Speaker, Martin Amewule, accused the governor of being in violation of subsisting court order. And we can also tell you that that panic stemmed from that visit that we talked about after the governor visited the quarters. He also mentioned the fact that he had to visit the quarter because of the development in the State House of Assembly. Yesterday, you read and saw the story where a new speaker emerged. His name is Victor Oko-Jumbo, and that political loggerhead has been on. But we're following that story, and we understand the members of the House of Assembly are sitting at the moment. So we'll find out exactly what this particular sitting is about. But with River State politics, it feels like you can't blink. But we'll take our attention away from River State politics to issue of broader national perspective, and that has to do with the issue of the labor. And I'm being joined on the program by the national president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Mr. Joe Ajero. He joins us right here in our Lagos studio. It's good to see you in Lagos, Mr. Ajero.
Thank you very much.
I'm almost tempted to ask you what are you doing in Lagos, but I know you're the national president, so you can be everywhere.
Exactly.
Thanks again for coming on the program. The natural place to start is, we already know what the demand of labor is, whether it's NLC or TUC, organized labor, is demanding for 615,000 naira as minimum wage. You had said 1 million, but you were kind enough to come to 615,000. But people are curious to know, how did the labor union come to 615,000? What's the breakdown?
Okay, thank you very much. And let me start from there. Straight away breakdown. Labor looked at certain indices. The one is maybe global, you know, UN, world bodies, that no human being can survive on $1, less than $1 per day. And we are quite aware that Nigeria approves of only 4 children for a family. And then husband and wife and 4 children, you have 6 members of a family. And then we looked at, if you figure it out on $2 per day per person, you are having about $12 per day. And if you multiply it by 30 days, you're going to have about 360. And then the conversion is left for Nigerians, not labor. But that definitely it is more than 615,000 that we demanded. The second issue, which is very common in labor negotiation all over the world, is the cost of living index. And then we looked at accommodation for the least. This we are talking of minimum wage, not a flat. Maybe a room and parlor. A family of 6 looked at 40,000 naira per month. We looked at education. Probably a child might be in public school, and if we apportioned 50,000 for it, which in most instances is not up to what you can pay for a child. We looked at feeding, and we allocated 500 naira per meal. Probably some people can feed on maybe half loaf of bread or without meat. So if you have 500 naira per meal, the person will be spending 1,500 a day. And for 6 people for 1 month, for them to feed, whether it is balanced or not, is about 270,000. And then for a worker that lives in the fringes, that comes to work, maybe 4 or 5 drops, and then transportation, we look at to and fro, maybe about 3,000, and you can't get less than 90,000 or thereabout. So we looked at gas or kerosene or whatever, and then we calculated it that an average cylinder is filled these days with about 16 to 17,000, and you fill it almost every 2 weeks. You're talking about 30-something thousand for a family to cook and all that. So those are some of the, and now we looked at electricity, and that was before the current tariff increase. We looked at 20,000. So if you buy a token of 20,000, I'm not sure a family of 6 would it will last for more than 2 weeks. But that was what we added there. And then Medicare, maybe 50,000. If there is no surgery, if there is no major problem. And we looked at clothing, 20,000, for a family. So it's like you buy a cloth once or twice, in a year. That's what we are going to use. So those are the things that led to the calculation that brought it to 615. It wasn't just brought from the moon. It was based on the present economic reality that we have. And then we forwarded it to the Nigerian state. And these things are now subject to debate. For you to say, no, you can get a house for 20,000 or even 10,000. And we look at the studies. No, you can feed with maybe 200 naira a day, or a meal, for 3 times a day. So those are things that will lead up. But we had a provision, that if the economic situation continues, especially the inflation, this will not be enough. And that was where the issue of 1 million comes up. If we continue to grow the way we are growing now, devaluation of the currency, inflation continues, 1 million naira will not be enough for a worker to survive in a month. But if they are checked and they come down, our demand and what we are going to take will be less.
So let's stay with the 615,000, according to the present reality right now. So what is the federal government proposing? Because we know there are meetings going on and negotiations are going on. We even heard there was a deadlock at some point. This is what you're putting on the table. What is the government putting on the table?
Well, as we talk today, this demand was put before Easter, and the federal government has not responded to any of this. However, after I made this speech, giving up to end of May deadline for this activity to be concluded, because as of today, there's no minimum wage in existence in Nigeria. The old minimum wage expired by 18th of April. So Nigeria is without minimum wage.
18th of April 2024?
Yes. Nigeria is. So, however, 2 nights ago, we hurriedly saw a message for a Zoom meeting, on the minimum wage negotiating committee coming up on the 15th of May. So let us see what happens in such a Zoom meeting and how effective it will be and the subject matter.
15th of May, by my calculation, should be like next week Wednesday. Just about 5 days from now. So let's look at this critically. Do you really think, or does Labour really think, with the reality of the government is facing, that government can really pay 615,000 naira for the least worker?
So we need to understand the reality. Because if it is not the reality that we can't even go to work with 60,000 as transportation, go and come, what then is the reality? Because it's in this country that you don't have any social security network. You don't have accommodation provided. You don't have transportation provided. Even electricity, you generate it by yourself. Even water, you sink borehole in your house. And all these things are contesting for a little portion of the 30,000 naira minimum wage. Now, we're talking of realistic, and after the removal of subsidy, we're told clearly that you can't get this in reverse, go and negotiate wages. And the outcome of the removal of subsidy is this skyrocketed cost of living all over. And we have brought it that this is the cost of living on us. But you said you are making trillions. Are we not supposed to balance it? Look at those policies that have driven all these things up, and then realize it with the demands of labor. In this demand, you don't see any 1 kobo for savings. It's just what we need to go to work and come back as a family. So the issue of realistic, is what we are going to negotiate on the table. If you bring down the inflation to a certain digit, if you bring down the value of the foreign currency to a certain digit, the demand of labor will be different. If at all they are going to be constant. And then if you want to equally work it, statistically, that every year, if inflation goes at this rate, we adjust wage at this rate. Maybe we should not be boxing ourselves on daily basis. We now know that, we are reacting to, certain indices in the economy. So I think those are options that are open for negotiation.
So for you as Labour, I know that you said 15 negotiation is going to go on, and then the 30th, I think, is the deadline you're giving for all of this. What can be a middle ground? I know why I'm staying on that question. What can be a middle ground between you and government?
Well, middle ground will be based on realities on the ground. Because as we proceed, we'll still go back to our organs to say this is what government has offered. And they will tell us how they are feeling, how it's pinching them.
Okay.
And we'll still take it back. So definitely there will be a middle ground. The middle ground may be if there are some policies that will influence it to go high, for us to equally demand for higher than 615.
Mr. Ajero, the reason I'm asking is because what you're also proposing, are you also proposing a unique or uniform minimum wage? Because I can tell you for a fact from the data available to us that without FAC, a lot of the states will be insolvent. They will literally go belly up. They will not be able to function or perform any of their responsibilities. Even the 30,000, some are paying less, some are not even able to pay. So in your negotiation, are you thinking of unique situations per state, or you're thinking of a uniform blanket case for everybody?
Well, minimum wage all over the world is the minimum. No state should pay less. And it's to take care of the number of the workers that are less privileged, the workers that are voiceless. However, unique should not be an exclusive concept. It should be universal. If a governor from a state that doesn't generate 1 million a month collects 5 million as his salary, the governor that collects 20 billion a month, are they supposed to collect the same thing? These are issues. Now, if you are not generating enough money, you depend on rent from national. What are you supposed to do? You look inwards. Because experience has shown us from what you said that the ones paying higher minimum wage are not the ones with the highest revenue coming from the federation account, but the ones that kept their priority, in order and have the issue of wages and the productivity of workers as very paramount in their hearts. So there's a relationship between the priority of a state, and then the way they treat their workforce and the motivation the workforce get there, and ditto the productivity that comes from such states.
I'm going to bundle two questions in one because of time. We're totally out of time. So I need you to speak on the issue of the cybersecurity levy. And if this doesn't fall through at the end of the month, I'm talking about this negotiation, will Labour go on strike? Will they go on protest? What exactly? So two questions in one because of time.
Yeah, the issue of cybersecurity, the NLC has made their position clear, that is not wanted. It's not acceptable at this point. It's a tax too many. We are bothering to see how we can even survive with our wage. And we're negotiating now. And there are some other variables that will impose a lot of problem on us. And it's even trying to drive the nation back to where people will be spending from their pocket, not transfers, not cashless policy. On the issue of end of the month, if nothing happens, we'll go back to our principles, because say at the end of the month will not guarantee industrial peace. So, and that was our decision at our organ meetings. At the end of the month, we'll go back and whatever they direct, we're going to do it.
You didn't answer the last bit of the question in one sentence. Are you going on strike, protest, if the government doesn't give you your 650?
That is a mandate we're going to get from our National Executive Council, our Central Executive Council. It is on the next approach to it.
Mr. Joe Ajuri is the national president of the Nigeria Labour Congress. We must thank you so much for stopping by and giving us your insights on the issues of organized labor and the federal government. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, my brother.
All right, so let's move on now to other stories. We can tell you that the Senate has approved the death penalty for drug traffickers in the country as it passed third reading of the 2024 National Drug Law Enforcement Agency Amendment Bill. The proposal, which was passed through a voice vote, followed the submission of a report on the amendment of the bill by the chairman of the Senate Joint Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters, as well as Drugs and Narcotics, Senator Tahiru Mongono. Our National Assembly correspondent Gloria Mezuke reports.
The last day of plenary for the week began with the usual consideration of bills until the report on the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency Amendment Bill 2024 was submitted.
Check it again. It's 38.
The chairman of the Joint Committee, Senator Tahiru Mongono, first made his presentation on the need to strengthen the war against drugs before its consideration in the Committee of the Whole, where some lawmakers outrightly expressed polarized views on the penalty for drug traffickers.
The objectives of the bill is, one, it seeks to strengthen the operation of the agency, to empower the agency to establish laboratories for forensic review the penalty provision, and to enhance the power of the agency to prosecute drug-related offenses and issue subsidiary legislations.
Since we want to amend this law to be more effective, then the punishment should be harder. So I am proposing that instead of imprisonment for life, it should be to be sentenced to death.
It is time to call a spade a spade. If we want to eradicate drug trafficking in Nigeria, the only way to do that is to nip it from the board and to make it a capital offense.
The matter was then put to a voice vote. However, some lawmakers were displeased over what they described as a hasty passage.
Death sentence is not a matter for A, nay or nay. No, it cannot. We'll take a vote. It's a fundamental issue. We are making law here. This is not a motion.
Currently, offences punishable by death include armed robbery, murder, treason, conspiracy to treason, treachery, among others.
Management Board.
Earlier, the lawmakers commenced the process of reviewing the salaries, allowances, and benefits of judicial officers.
It is only fair that we make the job of the judicial officers very comfortable to avoid the temptations of bribes and rest of them, which may not be in the interest of dispensation of justice.
This is definitely a bold step and a step in the right direction. So those in support that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it.
All right, so that's the argument for and against as far as the issue of drug trafficking is concerned. Some people are saying it should be expanded to issue of corruption. That should also get a death penalty. Well, we'll see how that plays out. But let's shift attention now to other issues. This time we go to Zamfara State. We're being joined by the special advisor to the Zamfara State Governor of Media, Mr. Bala Idris. He joins us via Zoom. Mr. Idris, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's begin with the latest development as to the issue of let's call it a battle in the State House of Assembly. I guess you can speak to it. We understand that the 8 suspended members of the Assembly have now instituted a lawsuit against the Speaker and the members of the House. Maybe you can walk us through how this built up to this particular point, because when we look at what is happening in Rivers State, this is a sad commentary as to how things are playing out within the arms of government.
Well, I think the situation in Zamfara is different from Rivers State. What is happening in the State Assembly is the issue between at the legislative level. And at the executive level, the governor, things from the beginning, has informed them that he will not interfere in the affairs of the legislative. But he, as a father figure, because he's the governor of the state, of course, he will intervene and advise them on how to rectify the issue between themselves. So the governor is just playing the role of a leader to make sure that the rift between the assembly members have come to an end without the escalation of the issue. So what the state government is doing is just trying as much as possible to see how they resolve the issue without any escalation.
Yeah. The reason I'm asking is because when I look at the list of those involved, 5 of the people are from the PDP, excuse me, and 3 are from the APC, and is the father of the party. Isn't it time to intervene before it escalates?
Well, this shows you the level of freedom in the state, because it doesn't. This is the first time that we're seeing something like this because of the freedom that the governor has given the assembly members. You have the right to do what you feel is. You are convinced that it is right what you are doing. So it's because of the freedom and the level of freedom that the governor has given. The executive is not interfering with whatever they are doing. So as I said earlier, what the governor is doing right now is to make sure that there is no escalation whatsoever, to intervene and advise them if when necessary. So I don't see it as a problem seeing some members of the PDP among the assembly members who is having issue with the assembly. I don't see it as a problem.
Excuse me. Well, we ask because it is not really the business of the executive to interfere in the affairs of the legislature. But we know how these things play out when it comes to Nigeria's democracy. Let's shift on to the issue of insecurity in the state. I think earlier in February or January, the former governor Bello Matawale, who is the Minister of State for Defense, as well as his successor, Governor Dauda Lawal, had made commitments to close ranks and combat insecurity to the best of their ability. How is that going, by the way, given what some of the face-off we've been seeing, or some of the things that looks like proxy face-off we've been seeing going on? As
you are aware, even last month, the governor was with the president on the same issue of insecurity in Zamfara State, and the central to their discussion is to see how the military will deploy more troops to the state. Part of the promises made by the president is that they will deploy more troops to the state to see how we can be able to combat the issue of insecurity. And the president has fulfilled the promise because we have seen the presence of more troops in Zamfara State, and we have recorded successes in the fight against insecurity in the state. So the governor has been going around. He went to the president made a promise, he fulfilled the promise, and he went to the office of the National Security Advisor together with Hasina State Governor, which led to their trip to the United States just last 2 weeks for a security event. And we have seen the governor going to service chiefs, and other top security officials, all in his effort to see what he can do to address the issue of insecurity in the state. So the issue of state minister for defense is from the state, and he has all it takes to contribute to combat the issue of insecurity in the state. The state government is open to any individual government.
All right, Mr. Idris, my apologies. If I may butt in, the reason is because, we've seen all of this protest, denial of which group belongs to which group protests, whether the governor is behind it and all of that. But we do not have so much time to talk about that. I want to talk about another issue in 45 seconds, if you can, which has to do with the extension of the local government tenure and local government administrators. So, straight question, when is the government anticipating conducting local government elections? Because that arm of government has been bastardized by a lot of, state governments.
This is a new administration, and you don't rush to do things. And to conduct an election requires there are procedures and processes. It's better to delay and do the right thing than to rush and do things wrongly. So the extension of the tenure of the caretakers, the caretaker chairman, local government sole administrators is on point, because what the government is trying to do is to avoid making mistakes. So, and this is been backed by the law. It's not just something that the state government decided to do without any legal backing.
Mr. Idris, sir, we don't have so much time. I wanted to take you on that particular issue. We can talk about it for 30 minutes as to the issue of state government and local government, legality or all otherwise, and all of the elements around it. But we don't have so much time for it. Mr. Bala Idris is the essay to the Zamfara State Governor on Media. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Yes, those pictures are from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Prince Harry and his wife Meghan have arrived the country to champion the Invictus Games, to meet with wounded soldiers and visit Abuja's NGO Light Academy to promote mental health among teens. So we're following that story. So Prince Harry and his wife Meghan are in Nigeria to promote the Invictus Games for concerns about wounded soldiers and issues around mental health. So we're following that story. I'll bring you the details in our subsequent bulletin. And that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and, of course, your usual company. That's it for the week as well. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics. Have yourself a great weekend.